Welcome to the 60 Plus podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. What are we talking about today, Janet?
Well, actually, we're going to be doing a new segment called Real Talk with 60 Plus. And we have a friend here today, Michele, who is going to be just hanging out with us for a little while. And we're having a conversation about life after 60. So we had an opportunity to talk to her about just turning 60 and what that means. And we asked her 10 questions. But what was really interesting about talking to Michele is that a lot of the focus was on self-care. Then it got us both thinking about self-care after 60 and what we do in our lives to take care of ourselves. So Joe, what do you do to take care of yourself?
I make my bed every morning.
Okay, there's a book about that, right?
There's a Navy admiral or something. He's like, first thing you do in the morning is make your bed. And it sets the tone for the whole day.
That's probably not the first thing that I do in the morning.
It's not the first
probably
thing.
stumbling down to let the dog out and then making coffee. So the first thing I do for myself, I make coffee. But I have to say, even when I'm out with the dog, I will take in the beauty around me and kind of lift my arms up, do a little yoga thing and just breathe the air, the fresh air. And actually, I heard that's one of the things that is really good for you is if very first thing when you wake up is you go outside, let the natural light and everything wake your body and take in the fresh air and whatnot for like a half an hour.
Half an hour? Who has that kind of time?
I don't have that kind of time, but 5 minutes is pretty good too. And then I have coffee.
I make my bed before I have coffee.
I don't make my bed before I have coffee.
What else do I do for self-care? Oh, I've lost a lot of weight.
Yep, that's definitely self-care, changing your diet.
Change my diet. I exercise more.
Unfortunately, when we get to this age of 60 plus, you're going to start to maybe get that message from other people, like a doctor or something like, oh, you're pre-diabetic. Maybe you need to change your diet.
Have you had the question from your doctor yet? Have you fallen?
And you couldn't get up?
No, it's just, have you fallen?
No, I haven't gotten that question.
Yeah.
I think she realizes how strong I am.
I think it's just you get to a certain age and they want to know, like, okay, is this something that we need to be concerned about?
Because that's neurological.
As you know, I had an elderly aunt that lived with us for a time and falls were a big concern.
Yeah, it can be. I do get concerned about falling and there's nobody around and actually hurting yourself. And then you're like, oh my God, they're going to have to smell my body decaying.
I just had this conversation with somebody. When I'm home by myself and my laundry is in the basement, and sometimes I go up to my attic, I always take my phone with me.
Wait a minute. You go all the way to the basement and all the way up to the attic when you're doing your laundry?
No. I'll go to the basement to do laundry, and sometimes I go up to the attic to do...
Very strange, Joe. What is happening in the basement or what is happening in the attic?
The laundry is in the basement. It's kind of a sketchy basement. It's got a steep, crickety staircase.
Wait, your hamper's in the attic?
No. The two things are separate. I conflated two things that shouldn't have been conflated.
Okay, I see.
Sometimes I go in the...
This idea of self-care. Is there somehow self-care?
No, we were talking about falling. And I was...
Yeah. Well,
I make sure I have my phone with me.
I'm going to try to switch gears back to self-care. Here's the thing about falling and self-care. Yoga, part of what yoga is designed to strengthen your core and help with balance, which I think is really critical as we age. I highly recommend it. And I think maybe we should do an episode just about the benefits of yoga and especially starting a yoga program when you're 60 plus. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
As you know, I went to my first yoga class recently.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's so good.
It was different. It was different than I expected.
Mm-hmm. I know people have this expectation. It's really important what class you choose to
See,
go
I didn't understand that either. I thought it was all kind of contorting yourself.
No.
Leg behind your head or something.
Because, those are the images we get in the media. It's always like some yogi doing some crazy headstand or crow or whatever. No, some classes you just don't even leave your back. You're just stretching and feeling good. And it's like giving yourself a body massage and you didn't have to pay somebody else to do it.
You didn't have to pay somebody else to give yourself a body massage?
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So the other thing is in terms of self-care at our age is just how we see the world.
Elaborate.
Meditation, they say, is really important for this. Or do you come from a place of happiness? Do you come from a place of balance? And can you find the strength to face whatever it is at the age we are? And that comes from inward. Yoga's about sort of outward in, but there is also an aspect of inward out. And I think that mind body spirit connection is very heavily tied to self care.
Okay. Now, in Michelle's interview, people will hear her self-care changed during pandemic.
Yes.
Did anything for you change during pandemic around self-care?
Yeah, actually, there was one thing that comes to mind is when I took my trips to Trader Joe's to get food so I could subsist, I always bought myself flowers because I thought if I'm going to be in lockdown, I want fresh flowers to be a constant. And that has not changed. I've not given up that habit.
That's a good one. I don't generally buy flowers, but I always have a little treat for myself somewhere tucked away.
Oh, so what kind of treats do you like?
I have a big sweet tooth.
Oh,
I have a candy drawer.
a candy drawer? You have a whole drawer?
It's not filled with
You don't have
candy
like
there.
the bar tucked away somewhere or nobody can find. You have a drawer full of candy.
No, the drawer isn't full. It's a drawer that has candy in it
Hey,
with
can
some
you
other
tell me
things.
where this drawer is? I want to know where your candy stash is, so I can
We'll
creep
talk
in
about
in the
that
middle
off
of the
air.
night when nobody's watching.
The little treats that I had would changed during pandemic.
How so? They got gooier.
No, less sweet. Less sweet, more
sweet.
cheese.
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 Hmm.
Really good
I've
cheese.
never considered cheese as a treat. I've always kind of considered it as a staple.
Oh, no, not the cheese that I'm getting. No, this is like really,
High-end cheese.
yeah, good expensive cheese. Well, should we listen to Michelle's interview?
I think we should. I think there's some really juicy nuggets in there, if you will. And, she's got a really nice perspective about life after 60. So take a listen.
Welcome, Michele.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. It's fun to have you here. So we only have people on that are 60 plus. So you have to admit if you're 60 plus.
Happily.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Ooh,
Wow.
I like that.
Very good.
And
She owns it.
recently, fairly
Absolutely.
recently, right? So how did you feel about turning 60, Michele?
I know people hesitate with birthdays after a certain age, but I really, honestly, I did not regret or, I wasn't sad or not looking forward to it.
It wasn't like a foreboding doom
No,
thing for
I
you.
had friends over. We had a nice party in my barn, and I looked around the room.
My
and
invitation must have gotten lost in the mail.
I was just so happy to have these people there. And I thought the years that have gone by, for me to have all these people here was just very heartwarming. And it was something I could celebrate. And it was a reflection of the years that I've been on this planet to get to know various people and have them all in one room. So I don't think of it as a negative. I think of it as this path we're going down, the path of life. And you get to, stop and smell the roses, so to speak, and accumulate friends and experiences. And I just absolutely love the fact that I've been able to be here this long. And I don't feel old. I really don't. And I think that I get that from my family. Like my mother never felt her age. And I think we'd like to have fun. And I think fun keeps us young.
Girls just want to have fun.
Janice, we're going to have you sing in every episode.
I know. I can't help it. It just comes into my
You got the
head,
music
and
in
it has to come right out my mouth.
I
you
got
know?
the music in me. I got the music in me.
Yeah, we're dancing in the studio now, y'all.
So Michele, what's your favorite thing about being 60 plus?
I feel like I'm in a group of people that are in that same age range. And it's exciting because it's a new chapter for me and my friends. I think that we're in a career that we've been in for a while, or I feel like we're more confident in our workplace. I love the fact raising the children and school lunches and all of that have gone away, and trying to fight with your kid to get up to catch the bus, that's gone, thank God. And the stress of, grades and tests. Not to say that I didn't enjoy raising a child.
I was going to say that was fun when it was happening.
Right. But I am
it doesn't
so
last forever, thank
happy
goodness.
to now focus on my own self-care. And that's really what I've been doing. And talking to people about what's next, the next chapter. And we are, unfortunately, living in a wild time for so many obvious reasons. But I think I like to remain positive, and I want to tell a good story.
I like that.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah. We're all in it together. So I'm going to flip that question, right? And ask you, what do you like least about being 60?
Thinking about death.
Oh, wow.
This is not...
That's the big one.
Well, your parents are older, and you have to think about preparing for them and what that's going to look like. And I feel like I'm not that much younger than my father's 20 years difference. So I'm looking at 20 years from now. And obviously, as time goes by, that doesn't sound like a very long time.
No, I know.
And I'm like, what am I going to be like at 80, 81?
I wonder about that all the time. I'll talk with a friend who will say, "Oh, I went and visited my uncle. He was my favorite uncle, and he was my fun uncle, and I went to visit him, and he wasn't so much fun anymore. He's kind of curmudgeonly." And I said, "How do we know we're not going to end up that way?"
That's so funny you mentioned fun, because I was with my father this weekend, and I almost wanted to say to him, "You're not having fun." I want to be fun. And my mother was fun up until she passed at 80. When people thought of her, she was a lot of fun and smiley and happy. And I want to be that too. I definitely don't want to sit around complaining.
Aches and pains.
Yeah, exactly. A new age spot, a new wrinkle, whatever. Overall, fun.
Yeah, and I think that helps to keep us young.
Yeah.
That attitude, that perspective on life, and embracing change and looking at it with a sense of humor is going to get us to that end goal of living a full life and always keeping things in perspective and enjoying every moment that we have.
But that's a decision that you have to make.
Absolutely.
My friend's uncle, I'm sure he doesn't say, "Well, I'm just going to be curmudgeonly now." He just hasn't chosen to be positive about where he is in life. And it sounds like you're looking at all the positives of it, Michele.
Yeah, I don't strive to be young. I like being 60, and I don't want to be 20 or 30 or 40, honestly.
Maybe 50.
50 would be nice.
50 was cool. Definitely good. I've accumulated experiences and, wrinkles, which is expressions. I think there's some value in having lived life.
Well, if you hadn't gone through everything that you've been through in life and done all the things that you have done, you wouldn't be the person that you are.
Exactly.
So you kind of anticipated one of our questions that I was going to ask. Maybe you can elaborate on it a little bit. You had a party when you turned 60.
Well, 59, actually.
Okay. So you were celebrating the end of your 50s.
Yes.
Was it planned? Did you plan the party? Was it a surprise?
No. I planned it. I did plan it. So, excuse me, because of the 60, I did have a party for 60, and that was just that just happened. That was not planned. But we did end up having a 60th party in the barn. But I planned a soiree for my birthday, and it was 59, and I really wanted to do it ahead of 60. And I think people thought I was turning 60 because I was making it a big deal. And it was in October. The weather was, on the cool side, but I told everybody to wear their fanciest outfit that they currently have in their closet.
I'm wearing the fanciest thing I have in my closet.
Yeah, that would be a struggle for me.
I had a vision for what I wanted it to be, and it was fun. It was lovely.
You mentioned this whole idea of humor and keeping a positive perspective and fun. The word fun keeps coming up. So I want to riff on that a little bit. And I would ask, what is the funniest thing about being 60 plus?
Well, I can ask for discounts now. And I think that's kind of funny when you're actually asking.
Do you have to show your ID?
I was just going to ask.
We have a local transfer station, i.e. the dump. So when you turn 60, your sticker goes way down. I think it's like $15. So I asked for it, and the woman looked at me suspicious, as if
That's
I
good.
as if I weren't 60. I almost thought she was going to card me or something, but yeah, no, I've never. That was the closest. She kind of seemed skeptical.
How old was she?
I know. I asked her, and she was younger than me.
Isn't that
she
funny?
looked older
So many times. Oh, this person's way older than me.
Right.
And I find out and they're younger than me. And I go, I must be in complete denial. And I have no awareness of what I look like or how I act or anything. I'm like, oh, I'm just younger than everybody. Well, no, you're not.
Oh, I know. I have a funny story. The job I was at, the latest job I had, so it was probably like a year ago. One of the women, she asked me if I had a tampon. And I was like, oh, I love you. I said, those days are long gone.
Typical thing that you would imagine.
No, but I was like, no. But I'm like, that's better than getting carded.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a fake ID, but
I'm like, no.
That's like the best compliment I've ever gotten. Thank you so much. But
yes,
no.
it was. It was the best compliment.
Oh, that is a funny story. I don't know if there'd be a male counterpart to that story.
I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
Nothing's coming to mind. I actually had to think about it for a second, like why that was a funny story. So. But I got it.
For women over
a certain
60
age
will find that funny.
Yes.
Or, a compliment.
So, besides carry an extra tampon in your purse, what would be advice would you give to someone who's about to turn 60, about turning 60?
Well, I would say enjoy it. Don't stress about it. I would applaud it and really take it as a compliment versus worrying that you're unseen. I think that this is a time for you to really share your experiences and your style with the world. I mean, I think after so many years, you come into your own, like you're more willing to explore whatever that is, whether it's your hair, whether it's your clothes, whether it's your makeup, whether it's your job. I think
or even your own internal spirituality.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're more confident or willing to just not give a shit what other people think. There's less critical Michele and more grateful Michele.
Were you always that way?
No.
We were talking about this recently about the inner voice and how that shifts. And I think it does hopefully become much more supportive.
Yeah.
And you're beating yourself up less. But, I really love what you're saying about this whole idea of perspective and embracing the change rather than denying it. I was just talking to somebody who's a guy, actually, who's about to turn 60. And he's like, I don't know why, but this one's really tough for me. I didn't mind 40. I didn't mind even 50 so much, but 60. And I literally said what you said. It's like, you got to flip the script on this. Think about all the great things that you have to look forward to. He runs his own business. He's always busy, busy, busy. He's trying to sell his business. He's going to have all this time to do things that he wasn't able to do before. That's all good stuff.
Yeah.
So attitude is critical, and it sounds like you've got a really good one.
And like I said, that's a decision. What attitude am I going to have about this? And there's always negatives about everything. Any situation you look at, there can be a negative to it, but there's also a positive, and it's what you decide. Are you going to focus on the negative side or focus on the positive side? You can't ignore things. I mean, you can't ignore your health. You can't ignore a number of things. But you can still be positive about being older.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as COVID was a terrible thing, but at the same time, that allowed me to really focus and get quiet in my head about what's happening and self-care because everyone was really wanting to take care of themselves so they wouldn't get sick or get others sick. And we had all this time at home. So we were able to explore self-care. And I learned a lot, even just the basics of washing your face. Like I never washed my face at night, rarely. I mean, I was not religious. And just getting into self-care habits were astronomical, like affected my mood. It was a form of meditation, really. So routines, like morning routine and nighttime routine. Like I said, I was often really lazy and, wouldn't wash my face every night. But now I do. I got into the habit of that. And I use product on my face. And I feel like, yes, that helps for sure.
So that kind of leads me to another question. Ask this a little bit differently. What do you do differently now that you're 60?
Well, that's it. I
never. The only thing? You wash your face.
Vitamins. I never took a vitamin, like rarely. I was never a vitamin taker and never understood supplements and what they could do for you and what combinations of supplements were good for you. And I learned how to put together smoothies, like a healthy morning smoothie too. And then I started following a couple different people on social media and YouTube. Learned a lot of good tips.
Health from the inside out.
Yeah. And I think that helps with your mood and how you feel. And age is a number, as we say. It's such a cliche, but a 60-year-old can feel much younger. So I think it's all about how you
take care of yourself, how you carry yourself.
I exercise more than I ever have. Well, since I was very much younger.
Yeah.
And I've lost a bunch of weight, and I feel better than I did when I was 50.
Yeah. I hear that a lot with people our age, that they're in better health and condition than they were when they were 40, 30.
Well, I saw a picture
50.
of myself, and I said, I don't want to look like that anymore.
Yeah.
It was a decision.
Yeah.
I think that as you get older, you realize there are consequences to things that you do, and the consequences can be bigger now. If you don't eat right, well, it has a bigger effect. When I was younger, I could eat anything.
Yeah, you don't bounce back from injuries and things like that as much as you used to. But it's kind of a shame that we have to wait until we're like 60 to really focus on this self-care and what that means. And that's the piece of advice,
That's
you might
huge.
Gives to somebody in their 30s or 40s.
Don't wait until you're, oh gosh, I better do something now, right?
Or
might be too late.
TikTok.
Or like to your 20s even. Like I remember as a young girl, very self-conscious. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, why did I feel so bad about myself?
Yeah, and I think that's a real issue. We talk about generational differences, and I see all these 20-somethings, and there's so much anxiety, and I think a lot of it has to do with self-care, self-talk, self-esteem, all those things that we really could concentrate on at any age. I love this idea where they've got school children doing yoga and learning how to meditate. Those are tools that we would have never thought of before. So at any point in life, what does that look like? And how can we, to your point, quiet ourselves and really listen to our bodies, our minds, and feel better?
So as we get near the end of this episode, I have a question. I have a lot of friends that have revealed to me they have a bucket list. Do you have a bucket list?
Always. But it's always changing too.
Well, that's okay.
Yes.
Not a to-do list, but a bucket list.
So, yes, I would love to visit all the, national parks, but I would love to.
Do you have a bucket list?
But not really like
it's not written down on a piece of
It's
paper.
not on your
just-
refrigerator.
Yeah, there's no map with these
pins and
pins saying this is where I'm going to get.
So you don't really have a bucket list, but you have things that you would like to do and accomplish, but it changes all the time.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a reasonable way to approach it. Interests change. And
Well, and it should change too as you accomplish some of these things, right?
sure, cross something off the
Yeah.
top of the list and add it to
Podcast, done.
Done. That was on Janet's bucket list. Janet, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I think that this has been really great talking to Michele, very, inspirational and a lot of great input in terms of how to keep that attitude positive, how to focus on the fun. It looks like you're doing everything right over there. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
I like how she's embraced it and said, I don't want to be 20 or 30 or 40. Maybe Janet said 50. But I like how you're embracing it and you're looking at all the positives, all the experience that you have that you can share with people and look back on and use in your life. And I'm really glad that you're washing your face every night, too.
Yeah, that's a really good habit to have, I think.
I try.
All right, so I think that might be the end of this episode of
Real talk.
Real Talk on 60 Plus, unless you have anything else, Janet.
Just a big thank you for coming
Yes,
in
thank you, Michele.
and spending some time with us. It's
Yeah.
Been really
This is
wonderful.
my first podcast.
Well, very good.
Oh,
Well,
see, you can scratch that off your bucket list.
well,
now,
thank you for allowing us to have you on your first podcast.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Janet.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You're
well,
very welcome.
I had fun too. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Bye.